Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my December wrap-up. I read 12 books in December, which is usually about the minimum that I'll read in a month. I just had a very slow reading month. Obviously the holidays, it's a busy time, so obviously that's what a wrap-up is. We're going to go through all 12 of those books today, starting with my lowest rated and working my way up to the highest rated. Spoiler alert, I did not have any 5 stars. My lowest rated book for the month of December was The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score, which I gave 2.5 stars. This is the first book I've ever read by Lucy Score. Obviously, I've seen a lot of her books around within the romance community on BookTube. None of her books have really intrigued me, but I wanted to read a holiday romance, and I really like the cover of this one, so I picked it up. So in this book, we are following a woman who works for a reality TV show, and she does kind of like home improvement stuff. For one of her shows, she did a home makeover for a woman and her daughter in this very small town, and later on she finds herself back in that small town after, I think it was a hurricane passed through and the whole town is destroyed. And the big thing in this town that they do is like their Christmas festival. Like they go all out for Christmas and decorate, and it brings in tons of tourists from all over. So she makes it her mission to get with this town, and she wants to do a big makeover Christmas TV special for them and help them get their Christmas festival off the ground. However, she faces a lot of pushback from like the city manager there. He has a lot of feelings towards her and towards her show, and he does not want her involved in this, but the two of them work together and eventually she gets to do her thing and they develop a romance. But my big thing with this is, first of all, the male main character was so rude and ungrateful at the beginning. Like, this woman's coming in with tons of resources and money and is wanting to put in physical labor to help your town out for free, to rebuild homes for people, to rebuild your town square, to help you put on this Christmas festival. And he's worried about it making like a big ruckus in town because this TV star is here, and he has a lot of very like misogynistic opinions towards her, that all she does is like look pretty to be on camera all day, as if she's not involved in the physical labor herself. So that just really irritated me, the male main character. The female main character I really liked. I feel like she was a very strong female main character and she had a lot of different things going on for her, and I did enjoy that. It was really just, they had no chemistry and the sex scenes were so cringy. Moving on, we're going to talk about all of my 3 stars for the month. I read At Dark, I Become Loathsome by Ararat. This was an advanced reader's copy. This publishes in January, and our story follows a man who has kind of taken to, there's a lot of different things that have happened into his life that have led him to this point, but now he has reached a point where he performs a very odd and very specific ritual for people that are essentially suicidal and struggling with thoughts of not wanting to be alive anymore. And this ritual is, he takes them and he has them write out like this will, their like last will and testament, and then he puts them in this coffin, buries them alive, and leaves them down there for like 30 minutes or so, and then digs them back up. Usually they come up with a renewed passion for life, so it tends to work pretty well for these people, but obviously it's not a legal business. There's a lot of very shady things around it, and we are following this character as he performs that ritual on some people, and then kind of his work takes on a new meaning, and he is struggling to find his purpose, and he finds a different way to fulfill himself with this ritual. This was a very strange book. I think it might be the most like brutal and gruesome from Ararat, but I don't know, because I feel like all of his stuff is kind of brutal and gruesome, but this one I did not like at first. I could not stand the characters and the writing. Like, it felt too over the top and like too edgy, and I was just like, oh my god, this is making me cringe. But then it grew on me and I liked following our character through the story, but at the end I didn't feel like really any strong feelings towards it, and I feel like there were some kind of predictable twists in here, so It was just very average for me. I gave it 3 stars. Eric LaRocca is still one of my favorite authors. Let's not get that twisted. My next 3-star was Below by Laurel Hightower, which is like a Mothman horror novella. We are following this woman who is driving through the night. It's snowy, conditions on the roads are worsening, and she pairs up with a truck driver so that they can kind of travel together, at least. Like, she'll follow the truck and they can be there for each other if anything goes wrong. And the truck ends up sliding off the road, and our main character is forced with trying to decide how far she will go to save a stranger. And then we also have this Mothman-esque creature that comes in, and it's bloody and gory and gruesome, but overall I had so many questions at this book. Like, the end of the book, I feel like there are so many things that didn't get answered or didn't get fully explained, different things that were brought up within the story. The ending is kind of open-ended as well. It's definitely up for interpretation, so be aware of that going into it if that's something you don't like, but it was okay. I like Laurel Hightower's writing, but this just wasn't my favorite story from her. The next 3-star that I had was Filterworld, How Algorithms Flatten Culture by Kyle Shaka. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that. This is a nonfiction, and he goes into detail about what the algorithm is with social media, how it works, and how that is affecting our lives in reality and away from the internet. There was a lot of really interesting and informative things in here, but there were also a lot of points where I feel like he was kind of talking about something that didn't fully relate to the overall theme of the book, so that's why I give this 3 stars. Nonfiction for me, like, sometimes I rate it and sometimes I don't, so I don't really have a lot to say about this one. I feel like I did learn some things and I did enjoy the general message that he was trying to spread, but I think there were some things that could have been a little bit better. Next we have Ararat by Christopher Golden. This one I gave 3 stars, and I remember finishing it and kind of just being like, that's just another mediocre Christopher Golden read for me. Every time I go into a Christopher Golden book, I'm like, this is the one. I'm going to love this book. And then I come out giving it 3 stars or 3.5 stars, and I'm just waiting for that one that I love. This one was, first of all, was entirely different than what I thought it was. I think I just read the synopsis too long ago, and then I started the book and I was like, wait, what the heck is happening? I'm gonna try my best to explain this because, to be honest, I don't really remember too much from it, but the story starts off with this avalanche. I think it's an avalanche or like an earthquake happening on this mountain, and it kills a bunch of people, but it also ends up unearthing or revealing kind of this cave or this like underground structure within the mountain. So we are following this couple who kind of makes it their thing to just go around and adventure together, and they write books about it, and they want to be the first people to this dig and to be able to film it and to be able to write about it and to be able to share their story and be the first people that were there to discover what was in here, because there is this big thing. People think that it's Noah's Ark that is buried there. So these people go up and they find this ark, and then they end up unleashing a powerful entity that has been buried within this structure. I truly have nothing to say about this. I feel like I didn't really like any of the characters. Some of the horror was really interesting. There was kind of a demon possession aspect to it, which I really like a lot of the times, but I feel like this one, there was like nothing special about it, and the 2 characters really irritated me at the beginning, so throughout the rest of the book I just didn't really care about them. Now to move on to my 3.5 stars, the first one I have is Snow by Ronald Malfi. This is about a group of strangers who all teams up together as they are all trying to travel somewhere, and all the flights got canceled. So they rent a car together. We have 4 people, and they are driving along the road when a man comes up to them asking for help and says that his young daughter is lost out in the wilderness, and it's like -20 degrees outside. So they try to help this man, but there's only so much they personally can do. So they decide to take him into the car and then drive into the next town and contact the local authorities and hopefully get somebody with more manpower out looking for this young girl. But once they get into this small town, they realize that things are definitely strange. There's something odd going on, and they find that this small town has been ravaged by these very interesting snow creatures, and now they're in a fight for survival to get out of this situation. I feel like this type of book usually follows a pretty standard storyline, and I don't think this did anything too different from other books that I've read that were very similar, but I did enjoy the characters, I enjoyed the horror within it, and I enjoyed the creatures. I feel like the creatures were very unique in themselves. And overall, I like the way that the story was told. I like the way the story wrapped up. And that's really all I have to say about this one. The next 3.5-star book that I had was Rolling in the Deep by Mira Grant, which is the prequel to Into the Drowning Deep, which I also read in December, so we'll talk about that in a minute. This prequel I gave 3.5 stars. We are following a group of people on a boat that is going out to the Mariana Trench to film kind of like a mockumentary for this production channel that wants to talk about mermaids and if mermaids are out there. So they have a cast of like fake mermaids with them as well, so they can fake some footage, and then they also have some researchers there to do some actual like research within the water and see if they really do find anything. And of course they do find actual killer mermaids, and everybody dies, and it's very bloody and it's very brutal. Short and sweet. Love the cover of this one. My next 3.5 star was another holiday romance. This is In A Holidaze by Christina Lauren. This is about a woman who is on her yearly Christmas trip with her family and close friends. Some of them own a cabin out, I think it's in Park City, so it's just a snowy, fun, festive holiday retreat for all of these people, but some strange things happen this time around, and when she is leaving, she actually gets in a car accident and wakes up 6 days in the past when she is still on the flight to this cabin. So the entire trip never happened, and she's stuck in this time loop trying to figure out what the universe is trying to show her, what she's supposed to learn from this time loop. And I thought it was really fun. It was definitely very festive. There were a lot of Christmassy and wintry things happening the whole time. I really liked the character. I went into it expecting like a classic romance, but I feel like it's more of like contemporary fiction, and then a little bit of romance comes in later on, because for most of the story you're following this woman trying to figure out what is going on with this time loop and trying to figure out her own life before the romance aspect becomes a huge part of it, and I really liked it. I liked the romance, I liked the friendship and the dynamics within all of these people, and I liked the setting that we were in, so overall this was a good read. And the last 3.5 star book that I had was The Watchers by A.M. Shine. This one I was really glad to read because it just got made into a movie, and then I did of course watch the movie afterwards. But this is about a woman who is on a weird side job, and she is driving, I think it's in Ireland, and she is like out in these country roads like in the middle of nowhere, and her car breaks down. So she gets out and she starts walking, and she's just going through the forest, and she runs across an old woman who basically tells her to hurry up if she wants to live and get into this structure. And she is there with 3 other people, and they are being kept in this container that seems sort of like an experiment or an attraction to these monsters, these weird beings that come out at night, and they come up to the glass of this structure and they watch the people inside, and it's very unnerving and very creepy. I really loved the premise of this story. I really love the creatures in this story. I really like the way it was told. Everything went by very quickly. There was constantly something happening. It was a very, very fast-paced story, but there were some inconsistencies and some plot holes, and I wasn't really a big fan of the ending. To me, this book felt like the author had a really fascinating idea that they wanted to bring to life, but they didn't spend the time thinking about every single little detail, and unfortunately I thought about those details and then I had a bunch of questions that never got answered. Okay, let's go on to 4 stars now, starting off with Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, which we just talked about. Rolling in the Deep is like the first book, and it was published first, but it's like a prequel, because I think Into the Drowning Deep has more readers overall and is more popular overall. So this follows a group of people kind of doing the same thing. We have a main character whose sister was in the first book and died from the mermaids in that one, and so now we have all these people who know what happened, or they know what they think happened, which is that killer mermaids killed all these people because they have footage of it. But there are still those that are skeptical and they think it's a big hoax. So we have this very, very large vessel that is supposed to be reinforced and super safe, and we have hundreds of people that are going on it, a lot of scientists that are going to do different research and investigation into this, and then they're also filming it for the same production company. So of course they get there and the killer mermaids are there and they come out and they start killing as killer mermaids do, right? I really, really enjoyed this one. I think the atmosphere was so perfect to be on this vessel out in the middle of the ocean above the Mariana Trench, like the deepest part of the ocean. That would be absolutely terrifying. So the atmosphere was there so well. The imagery within the mermaids and then all of the murders that come are bloody and brutal, and I really enjoyed it. But then we also get the science side of things. We get to see these people that are investigating the water and investigating these creatures and figuring out how they came to be, how they act, how they communicate, what maybe their goal is, and I really, really enjoyed it. The only flaw that I had with this book is that something really, really cool is introduced at the very end, and it was also in the prequel, but we don't get to spend a lot of time with this thing. It's just kind of like mentioned and then the book ends, and I'm like, I want there to be a follow-up. I want another book focusing on this thing because it's so fascinating to me and I want to know more. I want to know what happens. The next 4-star that I had was The Terror by Dan Simmons, which I read with some of these other books in my creature feature reading vlog, which will be linked down below if you want to see my full thoughts, because I talked for a really, really long time about this book in there. At first, I was hating it. I found myself like so bored. I didn't care about anything that was happening, what these people were saying. I didn't care about the setup, but once I got further into the book and it grabbed my attention, then I was like in it. Like I was in deep, and once it had me, like it was not letting go until the very end, and I had such a massive appreciation and love for this book by the end. So I would definitely recommend it if you are one that's been considering for a while. If you want to read this book, definitely do it, give it a try. So this is like a fictional recount of an expedition that happened in the mid-1800s where 2 ships were sent out to find the Northwest Passage up in the Arctic Circle, and they end up having to winter there because their boats get stuck in the ice and there is no way that they can move. And so we are following their survival story, and there are a lot of different factors that go into it. Obviously, the threat of scurvy and disease and illness just in that time period alone, but also with these conditions, the exposure to this weather in the Arctic Circle during winter. They also obviously are worried about their food rations. Some other things come into play with that, and possible poisoning. There is the threat of the ice constantly being pressed against the ships and breaking them apart, and once the ice melts they know, okay, the ship's probably going to sink because it's so damaged. And then on top of all of that, there is this supernatural creature that is out on the ice hunting these people. It is very intelligent and very calculated with its kills, and it's really like tormenting these people and just playing with them for fun. So I think the big horror in this one is the conditions that these people are in and the survival aspect with this expedition, but then having the creature in there is so fascinating. It goes a lot into Inuit culture, and overall I just thought it was a fascinating read. I feel like I learned so much. It is extremely depressing and extremely bleak though, and it's a difficult read at times, but it was just so well done, and I can definitely see why so many people love this book. And my last book for December is right here on my shelf. I read So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison, and I did end up giving this one 4 stars. There were some things about this that I didn't really like, but in the end, looking back, I only remember the positives and I don't remember the little things that I wasn't enjoying, and so I feel like a 4-star is justified. So this is about 2 best friends. They're on a little vacation. They both have a lot of different things going on in their personal lives, and their friendship itself is sort of toxic in some ways, and it's definitely not a representation of a healthy friendship. Like, they definitely have their issues, but while they are on this vacation, they end up getting involved with a group of vampires. Some shit goes down and then they get turned into vampires themselves, so we are following them as they navigate this new world. I just think that I may be entering my vampire era, because I was just loving all of the vampire stuff within this book, and now I'm like dying to read more vampire books. I think this was really fun. Rachel Harrison definitely has like a signature style to her books with her main characters and them getting involved with something supernatural and then just kind of navigating their life. Her books are usually very cozy, and this one definitely was cozy, but then it was also like there was a lot of murder and a lot of bloodshed and different things that were happening, which I really liked. I also really loved the main character in this book. I feel like, you know, each of Rachel Harrison's main characters is a woman that is usually in her late 20s to 30s and is just going through this very, what is the word? Why can I not think of the word that I'm trying to say? She's going through a period of life where a lot of things are changing and there's a lot to figure out about what she wants in her life. And that's like the theme across all of Rachel Harrison's books, but I really liked the main character in here and the way that she viewed things and a lot of her mindset for different things. And some of it was relatable, some of it was not relatable, but I just really liked her as a character, and I feel like that's why this one stood out for me. Overall, it was a great read. Like I said, there were definitely a few things that I wasn't enjoying while I was reading it, but overall, the bigger picture, I really like this book. Alrighty, so that is all 12 of the books that I read in December. That means this will be my last video that goes up where I'm talking about my 2024 reading, which is so crazy, but I'm so excited to get into the flow of things with the new year and all of the new reads. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.